Chapter 3 First Contact. The reception suite had been designed by committee. Kayla could tell. Humans favored straight lines, efficient geometry, symmetry. The room possessed all of those qualities. Someone had then attempted to soften the effect by filling it with living plants. It was a thoughtful gesture. Not entirely successful, but thoughtful. She appreciated the effort. The towering windows overlooked the indoor forest she had passed on the way inside. The stream below wound naturally between moss-covered stones before disappearing beneath a wooden footbridge. It wasn't home. It wasn't meant to be. It was a bridge between two civilizations. That mattered. Kayla rested one hand lightly against the cool glass. They listened. Not perfectly. No one ever did. But they had listened. When Leakin diplomats had explained that forests eased tension among their people, humanity had not laughed. They had built one. That spoke well of them. The doors behind her opened quietly. Commander Ralvek entered first. He was nearly a foot taller than Kayla, broad-shouldered even by Leakin standards, with silver streaks beginning to show around his muzzle. His dark military uniform bore no unnecessary decoration. Everything about him projected quiet competence. He had commanded her security detail since before humanity knew intelligent life existed beyond its own system. "Hi, Delegate." Kayla turned. "Commander." Ralvek approached. "You requested privacy." "I did." He glanced toward the windows. "I can remain outside." Kayla smiled gently. "That wasn't why I asked you here." The commander's ears shifted forward. She folded her hands. "Tell me honestly." He already knew the question. "You're wondering whether we should leave." She nodded once. Ralvek remained silent for several seconds. He never answered important questions too quickly. Finally, "If you asked me as your security commander." "I am. I would recommend returning home immediately." Kayla nodded. "I expected that." He continued. "We have lost 4 delegates." His voice remained calm. 3 advisors. 9 members of various security teams. He met her eyes. "The attacks continue evolving." Kayla looked back toward the forest. "I know." Ralvek's tail remained perfectly still. "The humans have increased security beyond anything I believed possible." He paused. "It may still not be enough." Kayla closed her eyes. "If I leave, what message does that send?" Fear, distrust, abandonment. Everything the assassins wanted. She opened her eyes again. "If I return home," she spoke quietly, "another delegate will take my place." Ralvek didn't answer. He or she will become the next target. Still silent. And nothing changes. The commander lowered his head slightly. "No, it does not." Kayla sighed. "When I accepted this position." She smiled sadly. "My mother asked whether I understood what diplomacy truly required." Ralvek remembered. He had been present. "What did you answer?" "I told her diplomacy required patience." A faint laugh escaped Kayla. "She told me I was wrong." The commander waited. Kayla looked toward the trees below. "She said diplomacy requires being willing to stand where soldiers no longer have to." Silence settled between them. Ralvek had always respected Kayla. Moments like this reminded him why. A soft chime interrupted them. One of the human attendants appeared in the doorway. "Hi, Delegate." Kayla turned. "Yes, the meeting is almost ready." She inclined her head. "Thank you." The young woman hesitated. "There is one additional item." Kayla waited patiently. "Our security advisor has arrived." Ralvek immediately became attentive. "The human." "Yes, Commander." Kayla noticed the subtle change in Ralvek's posture. Not fear. Evaluation. "What have you learned about him?" The attendant looked toward a tablet. "Former military. Executive protection specialist. Retired." She frowned slightly. "Very limited records." Ralvek gave a quiet snort. "Limited." She looked uncomfortable. "Most of the file remains classified." The commander looked toward Kayla. "That alone is interesting." After the attendant departed, Ralvek folded his arms. "I requested everything our hosts were willing to share." Kayla smiled. "And?" "Very little." She raised an eyebrow. "Nothing. Enough." He activated a small holographic display from his wrist. A human face appeared. Middle-aged. Shaved head. Calm expression. Nothing about him demanded attention. Kayla studied the image. He looks. She searched for the word. Kind. Ralvek blinked. That was not my first impression. Kayla smiled. What was yours? Difficult. She looked again. I don't see that. You wouldn't. Ralvek enlarged the photograph. The eyes. Kayla looked closer. Then she saw it. Not hardness. Awareness. As though the man expected the world to surprise him at any moment, and had already decided how he would respond. He observes. Ralvek nodded once. Constantly. He dismissed the image. Our intelligence believes he spent many years solving problems no one else could. Kayla looked toward him. Does he enjoy it? The commander paused. I don't know. She nodded. Then perhaps I shall ask him. Elsewhere in the diplomatic complex, Marcus stood before a large observation window overlooking the indoor forest. The briefing had ended 20 minutes earlier. Everyone else had dispersed to make final preparations. Marcus had asked for 5 minutes alone. Director Morgan hadn't questioned the request. He watched a pair of small birds hopping between branches. They imported birds. Dr. Chin stepped beside him. They did. Marcus smiled faintly. Good. She leaned against the railing. You keep saying that. They're paying attention. Dr. Chin looked toward the forest. To what? What makes someone feel safe? She followed his gaze. I spent 6 months helping design this habitat. Marcus looked at her. You did well. She smiled. Thank you. After a moment she asked, Are you nervous? Marcus thought about it. Not about meeting an alien. No, he shook his head. I've met plenty of politicians. Dr. Chin laughed. I suppose that's fair. Marcus continued watching the birds. I'm more interested in whether she's still capable of trusting strangers. The scientist's smile slowly faded. After everything that's happened. She sighed. I hope so. Marcus nodded. So do I. Behind him, the conference room door opened. Richard stepped into the observation area. They're ready. Marcus looked down. Kira was already standing. He smiled. Of course you are. He rested one hand briefly on her shoulder. Come on. Together. One retired Hades operator. One German shepherd. And the quiet hope of 2 civilizations. Walked toward history. The reception chamber had no podium. No raised platform. No flags standing like barriers between civilizations. Someone had gone to considerable effort to avoid creating the impression that either side held an advantage. Marcus approved. Good. If you start a conversation by deciding who's above whom, you've already started an argument. The room itself was quiet. The only sound came from the stream flowing beyond the tall windows. A pair of human honor guards stood near one entrance. Across the room, 2 Leakin warriors waited beside another. Neither pair looked at the other. Neither ignored the other. Professionals. Watching. Learning. Marcus recognized the posture immediately. The human guards noticed him first. Their eyes briefly widened before both recovered their composure. Good discipline. The Leakin guards reacted differently. Their ears pivoted toward him. Noses lifted almost imperceptibly. They weren't being rude. They were gathering information. Marcus found himself smiling. Well, that's going to take some getting used to. Kira remained pressed lightly against his left leg. Not hiding. Observing. Her ears tracked every new sound. Every movement. One of the Leakin guards noticed her almost immediately. The larger male blinked. His nose twitched again. Then something unexpected happened. His tail gave a single, involuntary twitch. Marcus caught it. Interesting. The Leakin immediately regained his professional bearing. But the moment had already happened. He likes dogs. Marcus filed the observation away. Commander Ralvek had spent nearly 30 years evaluating potential threats. The human approaching the room didn't behave like one. He behaved like someone who expected trouble. There was a difference. The distinction mattered. The photographs hadn't prepared him. Marcus Hale moved quietly. Not cautiously. Efficiently. Every step appeared relaxed. Nothing hurried. Nothing wasted. His eyes never stopped moving. Not dramatically. Just. Constantly. Doorways. Windows. Ceiling. Reflections. People. Distances. Ralvik realized something uncomfortable. The human had already mapped the room. He hadn't been inside 30 seconds. Then Ralvik noticed something else. The dog. She wasn't wandering. She wasn't sniffing furniture. She wasn't distracted by unfamiliar smells. Her attention mirrored Marcus's almost perfectly. The commander looked toward one of his own guards. The younger Leakin had noticed it too. Their eyes met briefly. No words were necessary. The canine wasn't a pet. She was part of the security team. Marcus stopped several yards from the Leakin guards. Not close enough to crowd them. Not so far away as to appear hesitant. Comfortable conversational distance. He gave a small nod. Morning. The translator resting behind his ear spoke almost instantly. The Leakin guards heard perfect Leakin. The humans heard English. Neither side noticed the translation. Exactly as intended. Commander Ralvik stepped forward. Good morning. His deep voice carried easily through the room. You are Marcus Hale. I am Commander Ralvik. Marcus inclined his head. Commander. Neither offered a handshake. Neither species yet knew whether such a gesture was appropriate. Instead, they simply studied one another. Marcus broke the silence first. I've heard you're good. Ralvik's ears tilted slightly. I've heard the same about you. Marcus nodded once. I hope whoever told you is honest. The corner of Ralvik's muzzle lifted almost imperceptibly. So do I. Neither man spoke for several seconds. Director Morgan shifted her weight. Dr. Chin looked between them. Richard watched with quiet amusement. Neither Marcus nor Ralvik appeared interested in filling the silence. They were evaluating, not competing. Finally, Marcus spoke. You've already changed your deployment. Ralvik blinked. I have. Marcus nodded toward the room. The original plan placed one guard on each entrance. Now there were two guarding the Leakin entrance. One at the human entrance. One farther back covering the room. Ralvik's eyes narrowed slightly. You noticed. You changed it after learning I was bringing Kira. Silence. The commander's tail moved once. Barely. Explain. Marcus glanced toward Kira. You anticipated she'd watch the human side approach. He pointed toward the repositioned guard. So you strengthened the route leading to your delegate. Ralvik stared at him. Correct. Dr. Chin quietly looked at Richard. Richard only smiled. I told you. Marcus shrugged. I would have done the same. For the first time. Commander Ralvik smiled openly. Perhaps this assignment will not be as difficult as I feared. The doors behind the Leakin guards opened. Every conversation stopped. Marcus looked toward the entrance. The first thing he noticed wasn't Kayla. It was the way everyone around her unconsciously adjusted their pace to match hers. Not because she demanded it. Because she considered everyone else. She neither hurried nor delayed. She simply walked at a pace that allowed others to remain comfortable. Interesting. Then he truly looked at her. She was taller than the reports suggested. Nearly 8 feet. Her charcoal gray fur caught the light like brushed velvet. Her formal diplomatic clothing emphasized dignity rather than wealth. But it was her eyes that held his attention. They were tired. Not physically. Emotionally. The kind of fatigue carried by people who had spent too long pretending they weren't exhausted. She noticed Marcus almost immediately. Not because he stood out. Because he was looking directly at her. Not at her height. Not at her claws. Not at the fact that she wasn't human. At her. Their eyes met across the room. Neither smiled. Neither looked away. For a heartbeat, the room disappeared. Kayla had expected many things. Curiosity. Unease. Perhaps even fear. She found none of them. The human simply looked at her with the calm, measured expression of someone trying to understand another person before reaching any conclusions. He's observing me. Then another realization followed. He's not judging me. For the first time in weeks, the knot of tension beneath her ribs eased. Only slightly, but enough for her to notice. Marcus had the same thought at nearly the same moment. She's still standing. After everything they've thrown at her, she's still standing. He respected that. Before either spoke a single word, Director Morgan allowed the silence to linger. Not because protocol demanded it, because something important had just happened. Neither Marcus nor Kayla had reacted the way either government had quietly feared. No hesitation. No visible apprehension. No instinctive distrust. Just two professionals trying to understand one another. Finally, Morgan stepped forward. "Hi, Delegate Kayla." She turned toward the Leakin. "May I introduce Mr. Marcus Hale?" She then turned toward Marcus. "Marcus, this is High Delegate Kayla of House Frostfang." Marcus took 2 measured steps forward. Close enough to speak comfortably. Far enough to respect personal space. He gave a slight inclination of his head. "High Delegate." The translator rendered his words in flawless Leakin. Kayla returned the gesture. "Mr. Hale." Her voice was warm. Steady. Deeper than a human woman's, yet surprisingly gentle. "I appreciate your willingness to accept this assignment." Marcus smiled faintly. "I was told someone needed protecting." Kayla's ears lowered ever so slightly. "I'm afraid many people have already paid a terrible price because of me." Marcus answered without hesitation. "They paid a terrible price because of whoever is trying to murder them." The room fell completely silent. Kayla stared at him. Marcus continued in the same calm tone. "Those aren't the same thing." For several seconds, she simply looked at him. How? How did he know? No report. No briefing. No psychologist. Not one person had challenged the guilt she'd been quietly carrying. This stranger had done it within 20 seconds. Commander Ralvek watched Kayla carefully. The change was almost imperceptible. Her shoulders relaxed. Only slightly. Most humans would never have noticed. Marcus did. He changed the subject immediately. "I have a question." Kayla blinked. "Of course." Marcus gestured toward the indoor forest beyond the windows. "Whose idea was that?" Kayla looked through the glass. "The trees." "Yes." She smiled for the first time. "A joint decision." Marcus nodded approvingly. "It was a good one." She tilted her head. "You like forests?" "I live in one." Now genuine curiosity replaced diplomatic formality. "You do?" Marcus nodded. "Michigan." The translator hesitated for a fraction of a second before rendering the unfamiliar geographic name. Kayla recognized it from her cultural studies. "The Upper Peninsula." Marcus looked mildly surprised. "You know where that is?" "I spent nearly a year studying human cultures before first contact." A faint smile crossed her muzzle. "It would have been embarrassing had I not." Marcus chuckled. "I've met people from Michigan who couldn't find it on a map." Several humans laughed. Even Commander Ralvek's ears twitched with amusement after the translator finished. Dr. Chen quietly leaned toward Richard. "They're talking about forests." Richard nodded. "I noticed." "I expected awkward introductions." Richard smiled. So did everyone else. Kayla glanced down. Only then did she truly notice Kira. The German shepherd sat quietly beside Marcus. Alert. Calm. Watching everything. Their eyes met. Kira's ears lifted. Kayla slowly lowered herself to one knee. Marcus said nothing. He simply watched. Kayla extended one open hand. Palm upward. No sudden movements. No reaching. Only an invitation. Kira looked up at Marcus. Marcus gave one almost invisible nod. "Your choice." Kira stepped forward. One cautious pace. Then another. She sniffed Kayla's offered hand. The Leakin remained perfectly still. Not forcing contact. Not withdrawing. After several thoughtful seconds, Kira gently pressed her nose into Kayla's palm. Kayla smiled. "Oh." She scratched lightly behind one ear. "So that's where your wisdom comes from." Kira's tail wagged once. Marcus raised an eyebrow. "Well." Everyone looked at him. "I've officially been replaced." Kayla looked up. "What do you mean?" Marcus folded his arms. "She usually takes at least 5 minutes before approving someone." Kira leaned very slightly against Kayla. Marcus sighed theatrically. 3. Kayla laughed. Not politely. Not diplomatically. A genuine laugh. It echoed softly through the reception chamber. Several members of both security teams glanced toward one another. The sound caught them off guard. Commander Ralvek hadn't heard Kayla laugh like that in weeks. Perhaps longer. Kayla stood once more. I believe she is an excellent judge of character. Marcus looked at Kira. I was hoping she'd at least pretend to deliberate. Kira glanced back at him with complete innocence. Richard shook his head. I've seen federal hiring committees take longer. Marcus nodded. And with less success. Laughter spread through the room. Not loud. Not forced. Just enough to dissolve the last of the tension. Director Morgan quietly looked around the chamber. Human guards. Leakin guards. Scientists. Military officers. Diplomats. 30 minutes earlier, every person in the room had been preparing for a difficult first meeting. Instead, a retired Hades operator, a high delegate carrying too much guilt, and one exceptionally opinionated German shepherd had somehow made the room feel almost normal. Morgan leaned toward General Wallace. I think. She smiled softly. This may actually work. Wallace never took his eyes off Marcus and Kayla. It already has. Neither Marcus nor Kayla realized it yet. Neither was thinking about friendship, or trust, or the future. They were simply having a conversation. Sometimes, history begins that quietly. The formal introductions lasted another 15 minutes. Marcus endured them. That was the word he privately chose. Endured. Names. Titles. Departments. Responsibilities. Several people explained exactly what they did, which Marcus appreciated. Several others explained why what they did was important, which he did not. Kayla noticed. Marcus never became visibly impatient. He remained polite, attentive, and respectful throughout every introduction. But whenever someone began describing accomplishments rather than responsibilities, his expression became extraordinarily still. She found herself watching for it. By the fourth occurrence, she was certain. He disliked self-importance. That interested her. Among her own people, rank carried responsibility before privilege. Humans professed similar ideals, but their cultures expressed status in countless ways she was only beginning to understand. Marcus appeared almost actively uninterested in it. When General Wallace was introduced by full rank and office, Marcus had simply said, "We've met." When Dr. Chen's scientific credentials required nearly a minute to summarize, Marcus had waited patiently before asking what she had learned about Leakin dietary requirements. The question had immediately turned the scientist from a decorated academic into an enthusiastic researcher. Kayla liked that too. He seemed to prefer people over titles. The larger group eventually dispersed. Marcus had requested a smaller meeting. Director Morgan had agreed. The final arrangement consisted of Marcus, Kayla, Commander Ralvek, Richard, and Kira. No aides. No ceremonial staff. No recording equipment beyond the security systems already required by the facility. Marcus chose a seat that placed his back near a wall without putting Kayla opposite him like an adversary. Ralvek noticed. So did Kayla. Kira settled beside Marcus's chair. Marcus placed a tablet on the table. Then he didn't turn it on. Kayla looked at it. You don't require notes? Eventually. Marcus folded his hands loosely. Right now, I'd rather listen. Kayla's ears angled forward. To what? You. She waited. Marcus continued. I've read the official reports. I've read the security assessments. I've read transcripts of your speeches and summaries of the previous attacks. He nodded toward the dormant tablet. I know what everyone else thinks. His eyes returned to hers. I want to know what you think. Kayla glanced toward Ralvek. The commander gave no indication of how she should answer. Of course he didn't. Marcus noticed that as well. Kayla looked back. What would you like to know? Marcus considered the question. The first attack. Richard shifted slightly. We already provided. Marcus lifted one finger. Richard stopped. Marcus never looked away from Kayla. I know what the report says. Richard understood. He leaned back. Marcus continued. I want to know what she remembers. Kayla's expression changed. Not dramatically. The warmth remained. But the diplomat disappeared. For a moment she was simply someone remembering the death of another person. The first delegate was Terran of House. She stopped. Marcus waited. Kayla corrected herself. His house is not important. Marcus nodded. She appreciated that he didn't contradict her. Terran was older than I am. Considerably older. He had negotiated more than 20 interstellar agreements during his career. Her claws rested carefully against the tabletop. He was patient. Infuriatingly patient. A faint smile appeared. He could allow someone to argue for an hour, then answer with one sentence that made them realize they had been arguing against themselves. Marcus smiled slightly. I would have liked him. I believe he would have liked you. The smile disappeared. He died when a pressure regulator failed aboard a transport. Marcus said nothing. At first, everyone believed it was an accident. Did you? Kayla hesitated. Yes. Marcus nodded. No judgment. No correction. Just acknowledgement. The second, Delegate Soren. Her voice became quieter. He disappeared during surface transportation on Luna. Body recovered? No. Vehicle? Yes. Condition? Undamaged. Marcus's eyes narrowed slightly. Personal belongings? Still inside. Translator? Kayla looked surprised. Missing. Marcus leaned back. Ralvek's ears shifted. Richard frowned. That detail is in the report. Marcus nodded. I know. Then why ask? Marcus looked toward him. Because I wanted to see whether she remembered it. Kayla studied Marcus. And because I did? It mattered to you. Of course it mattered. Why? She opened her mouth. Stopped. Marcus waited. Kayla looked down at her hands. Because Soren hated removing his translator. Marcus remained silent. He considered it disrespectful to speak with humans without it, even when no humans were present. Her ears lowered. He was fascinated by your languages. He said translation allowed understanding, but hearing another species speak reminded him that understanding required effort. Marcus glanced toward Ralvek. The commander's expression had hardened. You didn't know that. Ralvek slowly shook his head. No. Marcus looked back at Kayla. Who did? She thought carefully. His staff. Security. Possibly. Friends. Certainly. Public knowledge? I don't believe so. Marcus activated the tablet. For the first time, he made a note. Richard leaned forward. You think the translator was taken deliberately? I think someone removed an object the victim almost never removed himself. Marcus typed another short note. Maybe it's meaningless. Kayla watched him. But you don't believe that. Marcus looked up. I don't believe anything yet. That answer seemed to please Ralvek. Marcus continued. Believing too early makes evidence start agreeing with you. Kayla tilted her head. Even when it does not? Especially then. Ralvek gave a low sound of approval. Marcus looked toward him. You disagree? No. The commander folded his arms. I was beginning to wonder whether humans had invented a different word for confirmation bias. Marcus smiled. We have several. Usually after it causes a disaster. Ralvek's muzzle twitched. Kayla caught the expression. Those two are going to get along. She wasn't certain whether that reassured her. Ralvek leaned forward. That could involve hundreds of people. Thousands. Most entirely innocent. Probably. Then how do you distinguish them? Marcus shrugged. Patterns. The commander waited. People are creatures of habit. Marcus nodded toward Kayla. She noticed Soren's translator because removing it violated his habits. Then toward Richard. Security procedures are habits. Toward Ralvek. Guard rotations are habits. He tapped the tablet. Maintenance schedules. Deliveries. Transportation routes. Meals. Meetings. Shift changes. His finger stopped. Assassins don't need to control everything. He looked around the table. They need one predictable opening. Silence followed. Kayla felt something she hadn't experienced in weeks. Not safety. She wasn't naive enough for that. Something smaller. Something perhaps more valuable. Confidence. Not that Marcus could stop everything, but that someone was finally asking different questions. Kira suddenly stood. Marcus stopped speaking. The change was immediate. No command. No question. Kira's head turned toward the door. Her ears rose. Ralvik noticed Marcus's entire demeanor alter with her. The relaxed man remained seated, but his attention sharpened. Kira stared at the bottom of the closed door. Her nose worked. Once, twice. Then her tail moved. Marcus relaxed. 3 seconds later, someone knocked. Richard stared at the dog. Marcus called out, "Come in." The door opened. Dr. Chen entered carrying a tray. "I was told nobody in here had eaten." Kira's attention locked onto the tray. Marcus looked down at her. "Security assessment?" Kira stared at the food. Marcus nodded gravely. "I see." Kayla covered her muzzle with one hand. Dr. Chen looked between them. "What?" Marcus pointed toward Kira. "She's identified a vulnerability." Chen looked down at the tray, then at the German Shepherd. "Food? Apparently." Kayla laughed softly. Ralvik shook his head. "An exploitable weakness." Marcus sighed. "Catastrophic." Dr. Chen placed the tray on the table. Human sandwiches occupied one side. The other contained food selected specifically for Leakin physiology. Marcus looked at the arrangement. "Who prepared this?" Chen pointed upward. "Facility kitchen." "Who delivered it?" "I did." "Who had access?" Her expression changed. The casual atmosphere vanished. "I don't know." Marcus didn't touch the food. Neither did Ralvik. Kayla noticed. Dr. Chen slowly looked toward the tray. "Oh." Marcus stood. "Don't panic." "I'm not panicking." "Good." He examined the tray without touching it. "Probably perfectly safe." Chen stared at him. "Probably?" Marcus smiled faintly. "Welcome to executive protection." Ralvik rose. "I can have it tested." Marcus shook his head. "No." The commander looked at him. "Why?" "Because I want to know what happens when we don't eat it." Ralvik's ears moved forward. Kayla understood first. "If someone expects me to become ill." Marcus nodded. "They may react." Richard was already reaching for his communicator. Marcus stopped him. "No alerts." Richard froze. "Marcus." "Nothing changes." Marcus looked toward the food. "We don't accuse anyone." His gaze shifted toward the door. "We don't lock anything down." Then toward Kayla. "And nobody acts afraid." Kayla held his gaze. A quiet understanding passed between them. She nodded once. "What do you suggest?" Marcus looked at the sandwiches. Then at Kira. Kira looked hopefully back. "No." Her ears lowered. Kayla laughed. Marcus pointed at her. "Definitely not." Kira sat down. Disappointed. Ralvik's muzzle curved into the beginnings of a smile. Marcus looked around the table. "We order something else." Richard blinked. "From where?" Marcus picked up his tablet. "Somewhere nobody on the security schedule could have predicted." Kayla's ears lifted. "You intend to test your theory with lunch?" Marcus glanced at her. "I've conducted worse investigations." For a moment she stared at him. Then the High Delegate of the Leakin Crown smiled. "What do humans normally eat when they distrust government catering?" Marcus considered the question with appropriate seriousness. "Pizza." Kayla looked toward her translator as though perhaps it had malfunctioned. "Pizza." "Yes." Ralvik sat back down. "I have studied humanity for 11 months." Marcus nodded. "And?" "No briefing prepared me for this." Marcus picked up his communicator. "That's because you've been reading the wrong briefings." The pizza required 47 minutes. Marcus used 39 of them. The first 8 were spent establishing that the restaurant had been selected at random from businesses outside the facility's normal procurement network. Richard placed the order through an ordinary civilian account. No government credentials. No diplomatic designation. No mention of lichens. The delivery itself never entered the secure complex. A member of the facility staff retrieved it from a public access checkpoint and carried it through security. Marcus watched the entire chain. Kayla watched Marcus. He didn't hover over anyone. Didn't interrogate the employee. Didn't announce that he was testing the security system. He simply observed. By the time several large boxes appeared on the conference table, Marcus had learned the names of 3 security officers, identified 2 cameras with overlapping blind spots, discovered that one service corridor required only a maintenance badge for access, and determined that nobody challenged Dr. Chin when she moved between restricted areas because everyone recognized her. That last observation interested him most. Not because he distrusted her, because everyone trusted her. Trust created access. Access created opportunity. That didn't make trusted people dangerous. It made their identities useful to someone who was. Kayla stared at the open box. This is pizza. Marcus took a slice. This is pizza. She leaned closer. The translator supplied the word perfectly. It did absolutely nothing to explain the object. Your species puts multiple foods on top of another food. Marcus looked at the slice in his hand. When you say it like that, it sounds unreasonable. Ralvek examined another pizza. It is round. Usually. It is cut into triangles. Usually. Ralvek looked at the square cardboard box. Marcus waited. The commander's eyes narrowed. Why is it transported in a square container? Kayla's ears tilted forward. Dr. Chin stopped halfway through reaching for a slice. The meal became an accidental cultural exchange. Kayla preferred the simplest pizza. Ralvek approached each unfamiliar topping as though evaluating potential ordnance. Kira stationed herself beside Marcus and attempted to convince every person at the table that she had not eaten in several weeks. Nobody believed her. Dr. Chin nearly surrendered a piece of crust. Marcus caught the movement. Don't. Chin froze. Kira looked betrayed. I was only going to give her a little. That's how it starts. Kayla looked down at Kira. The German shepherd immediately redirected the full force of her attention toward the high delegate. Marcus pointed. See? Kayla smiled. I see nothing. Kira. The dog's ears lifted. Stop recruiting. Ralvek looked from Marcus to the dog. She understands you. Usually. Kira continued staring at Kayla. Marcus sighed. She understands me now. Kayla's tail moved with amusement. She simply disagrees. Marcus looked at her. You've known her for 2 hours and you're already taking her side. Perhaps she has a persuasive argument. She hasn't made an argument. Kayla looked down at Kira. She appears to be making one. Marcus considered this. That's disturbingly accurate. For a little while, nobody discussed assassinations. Marcus allowed it. He watched Kayla gradually become less formal. Not careless. Never that. But the careful diplomatic posture loosened. She asked Dr. Chen about human food. Richard explained why several toppings were controversial enough to start arguments. Ralvek discovered hot peppers. The commander's reaction was subtle. His eyes widened. His ears went rigid. Then he calmly reached for water. Marcus watched him. Ralvek noticed. Neither spoke. Marcus eventually raised his own slice in acknowledgement. Ralvek returned the gesture. Professional dignity remained intact. Barely. Kayla had seen the entire thing. She graciously pretended otherwise. Marcus noticed something else. Whenever Kayla laughed, members of her security detail relaxed. Not much, but enough. They had been worried about her. Not merely because she was their high delegate. They cared about her. That mattered. Loyal security personnel protected differently from people simply following orders. It could make them stronger. It could also make them predictable. Marcus stored the thought for later. The meal ended. Nobody became ill. Nobody behaved strangely. No alarm sounded. Marcus had expected none. That wasn't the point. The untouched facility meal remained covered at the far end of the table. Kayla looked toward it. Do you believe there was something wrong with the original food? No. Marcus wiped his hands. Then what did we accomplish? We changed something. Ralvek answered before she could. The routine. Marcus nodded. The commander continued. If someone is observing us, they now know the routine can change without warning. Correct. Kayla considered that. You deliberately created uncertainty. For them. Marcus leaned back. Predictability is useful when you're running a factory. He glanced toward the doors. Less useful when someone wants you dead. Richard's communicator vibrated. He checked the message. His expression tightened. Marcus noticed immediately. What? Richard didn't answer at first. That was answer enough. Marcus's humor disappeared. Richard placed the communicator on the table. Security found something. Ralvek was standing before the sentence finished. Kayla remained seated, but her posture changed instantly. What? Richard looked toward Marcus. The meal. Silence. Dr. Chen stared at the covered tray. Marcus didn't. He watched Richard. What about it? The kitchen supervisor reviewed the preparation log after we refused it. Marcus waited. One of the dietary supplements requested for the High Delegate wasn't part of the normal inventory. Ralvek's voice hardened. Requested by whom? They don't know yet. Marcus stood. Where is it? The container? Yes. Kitchen storage. Nobody touches it. Richard nodded. I'll tell them. No. Marcus stepped around the table. Tell them to secure the room. Richard paused. Not the container? The room. Understanding crossed Ralvek's face. Preserve everything. Marcus nodded. Fingerprints. Biological traces. Packaging. Inventory records. Cameras. Whoever moved through there. Richard was already transmitting instructions. Marcus looked toward Dr. Chen. Who determines Kayla's nutritional requirements? Our xenobiology team. Names. 6 researchers, including me. Who submits the orders? Normally my deputy. Normally. Chen's face paled. Marcus's voice remained calm. Doctor. She swallowed. We had a scheduling problem this morning. I submitted today's requirements myself. Nobody moved. Marcus asked the next question carefully. From what terminal? My office. Anyone else use it? No. Password. Biometric. Marcus nodded. Good. Chen stared at him. Good. It eliminates easy explanations. Her expression suggested she didn't find that reassuring. Marcus did. Easy explanations wasted time. Kayla rose. Marcus. It was the first time she had used his given name. He noticed. So did she. Neither commented. What do you believe happened? I don't know. She held his gaze. What do you suspect? Marcus looked toward the untouched meal. Someone inserted something into your supply chain after the dietary request left Dr. Chen's office. Ralvek's claws flexed once. Poison. Maybe. Marcus turned toward him. Don't marry the first theory. The commander's ears flattened slightly. Marcus continued. Could be harmless. Do you believe that? No. Ralvek's ears rose again. Marcus appreciated the question. Richard received another message. This time he read it aloud. The container was labeled as a mineral supplement compatible with lichen metabolism. Dr. Chen shook her head. We didn't request any additional mineral supplement. Richard continued reading. Preliminary scanner identifies an organic compound not present on the label. The room became very still. Kayla's eyes went to the abandoned tray. The meal she had nearly eaten. The meal Dr. Chen had carried into the room herself. Ralvek stepped closer to Kayla. Marcus did not. He moved toward the door. Kayla noticed. Where are you going? Kitchen. Ralvek immediately followed. Marcus stopped. No. The commander's expression hardened. You expect me to remain here? Yes. My responsibility is her. Marcus pointed toward Kayla. Exactly. The two men stared at one another. No hostility. Only two professionals whose responsibilities had just collided. Marcus lowered his voice. If this was an attempt, the kitchen may be the distraction. Ralvek stopped. Marcus continued. You stay with her. The commander glanced toward Kayla. Then back. What about you? Marcus opened the door. I find out whether lunch tried to kill your diplomat. Kayla stared at him. Despite everything, a tiny smile appeared. Is that normal human phrasing? Marcus looked back. No. Then he glanced at Kira. She was already beside him. Stay. Kira stopped. Her ears lowered. Marcus pointed toward Kayla. Guard. The change was immediate. Kira turned. Walked directly to Kayla. Sat beside her. Ralvek watched with open fascination. Marcus looked at the commander. Now you have backup. For the first time since the warning arrived, Ralvek's expression softened. I believe I am beginning to understand your methods. Marcus stepped into the corridor. Don't. Ralvek's ears tilted. Why? Marcus gave him a faint smile. I'm making half of them up as I go. Then the door closed. The kitchen was 3 corridors away. Marcus covered the distance without running. Running announced urgency. Urgency made people behave differently. He wanted normal behavior. The security officer outside the kitchen recognized him and immediately stepped aside. Marcus stopped. Why? The officer blinked. Sir, you were told nobody enters. Yes, sir. And you were going to let me enter. The young man froze. Marcus waited. Understanding arrived painfully. I assumed. That's the problem. Marcus's voice wasn't angry. That made the lesson worse. Verify. The officer swallowed, then raised his communicator. 30 seconds later, Richard confirmed Marcus's authorization. Only then did the officer open the door. Marcus nodded. Good. The young man looked surprised. Marcus stepped past him. Next time, make me wait. The door closed behind him. The kitchen looked ordinary. Stainless steel. Preparation counters. Cold storage. Cooking equipment. Cleaning stations. Nothing dramatic. 3 security investigators stood near a sealed storage room. Marcus didn't approach the suspicious container. Instead, he stopped in the center of the kitchen, looked around, and listened. One investigator approached. Mr. Hale. Who found it? The kitchen supervisor. Where is she? Outside being interviewed. Bring her back. The investigator hesitated. Sir, shouldn't we? She knows this room. Marcus looked around. We don't. The investigator nodded and left. Marcus continued observing. Shelving. Delivery entrance. Waste disposal. Refrigeration. Preparation stations. Labels. Nothing. Then he noticed an empty space on a shelf. Not large. Perhaps 20 centimeters wide. Dust outlined the shape of something that had been sitting there for a long time. Whatever it was. It was gone. Marcus crouched. Interesting. The kitchen supervisor arrived moments later. A woman in her 60s. White uniform. Hair pulled tightly back. She looked furious rather than frightened. Marcus liked her immediately. You're Hale. Yes. Someone used my kitchen to try killing the alien? Maybe. Her eyes narrowed. Don't give me maybe. Marcus pointed toward the shelf. What was there? She looked. Her anger vanished. What? The empty spot. She walked closer. Stopped. Then whispered. Oh, hell. Marcus stood. What? Inventory scanner. Portable. She nodded. We keep 2. Where's the other? She turned toward a charging station. One scanner rested there. The second slot was empty. The supervisor stared at it. I thought maintenance had it. Marcus's expression became very still. Did maintenance tell you that? No. Who did? She thought. Then her face changed. Nobody. Marcus looked toward the service corridor. Someone hadn't merely penetrated diplomatic security. They had learned something more valuable. How ordinary people moved through the building. Who belonged. Who didn't attract attention. Which assumptions nobody bothered verifying. Marcus touched his communicator. Richard. The response came immediately. Go. Lock down maintenance credentials. All of them. Every credential issued in the last 30 days. A pause. Marcus. Quietly. Richard understood. No alarms. Correct. Marcus looked toward the empty charging station. And find me the missing inventory scanner. Why? Marcus stared at the service entrance. Because I think whoever tried to poison Kayla borrowed something. His eyes narrowed. And I want to know whether they bothered returning it. The missing scanner had not been returned. Marcus considered that useful. Careless people left evidence because they were careless. Professionals left evidence because eventually they ran out of time. The distinction mattered. He stood beside the kitchen supervisor while one of the investigators pulled the equipment log onto a wall display. 2 identical portable scanners were listed. Unit 1 remained docked. Unit 2 had last reported its location 6 hours earlier. Marcus pointed. Show me the route. The investigator expanded the building map. A small blue line appeared. Kitchen. Service corridor. Lower storage. Maintenance access. Then, nothing. Marcus stared at the final point. Signal loss. Apparently. What causes it? The investigator shrugged. Could be damage. Could be. Marcus looked at him. What else? The man thought. Shielding. Where? The investigator enlarged the map. Several areas turned yellow. Machine spaces. Power distribution. Some structural compartments. Marcus nodded. Anything close to where the signal stopped? A pause. Then the investigator highlighted one room. Environmental processing. Marcus looked toward the kitchen supervisor. Who can enter? Maintenance. Anyone else? Facilities engineers. Cleaning staff. Not normally. Marcus smiled faintly. Normally is becoming an expensive word today. Richard's voice came through Marcus's communicator. We've frozen maintenance credentials without notifying the users. Good. 47 active badges. Too many. It's a large facility. Marcus studied the map. Any duplicates? We're checking. Contractors. 11. Recent hires? 3. Start there. Richard hesitated. Because they're suspicious? No. Marcus began walking toward the environmental section. Because they're easier to verify. Richard understood. Work outward. Exactly. The investigator moved to follow. Marcus stopped him. Stay. Sir. Preserve the kitchen. The man's frustration showed. Marcus didn't blame him. Everyone wanted to chase the next clue. Chasing clues destroyed scenes. You're doing more here than following me. The investigator nodded reluctantly. Marcus left alone. The service corridor was narrow. Functional. Unremarkable. Exactly the sort of place nobody remembered after walking through it. Marcus counted doors as he moved. Storage. Electrical. Waste handling. Mechanical access. A maintenance cart rested beside the wall. He stopped. Cleaning rags. Tools. Replacement filters. Diagnostic equipment. Nothing unusual. Then he noticed the wheels. One front caster carried dried mud. Very little. Just enough. Marcus crouched. The facility was underground. The service corridors were spotless. There should not have been mud. He touched nothing. Instead, he called security. Photograph the maintenance cart outside environmental processing. Richard answered. What did you find? Maybe nothing. You're becoming fond of that phrase. It keeps me from becoming fond of bad conclusions. Marcus continued. The environmental processing door was closed. Its access reader displayed green. Unlocked. He didn't enter. He examined the frame first. No damage. No scraping. No improvised bypass. Whoever entered had likely possessed credentials. Or something capable of imitating them. Marcus looked upward. Camera. Small dome unit. Facing the corridor. He moved slightly to one side. The camera tracked automatically. Good. He checked the opposite wall. Another camera covered the approach from behind. Better. Richard. Go. Pull camera recordings for this corridor. Already happening. Don't just pull the incident window. How far back? 7 days. Richard paused. That's a lot of footage. I don't want the person carrying the scanner. Marcus studied the camera. I want whoever practiced looking like they belonged here. Silence. Then Richard said. Understood. The door opened behind Marcus. He turned immediately. A maintenance technician froze. Human. Late 30s. Tool bag over one shoulder. Badge clipped to his chest. Sorry, sir. Marcus looked at the badge. Don't apologize. The technician hesitated. I was told there was a problem with the air handling. Who told you? Dispatch. Name. Automated work order. Marcus held out one hand. Show me. The technician passed over his tablet. Marcus read the order. Environmental Processing Unit 4. Pressure fluctuation. Generated 9 minutes ago. 9 minutes. After security had started investigating. Marcus looked toward the closed door. Interesting. He handed the tablet back. Cancel it. The technician frowned. I can't. It's classified as priority. Then leave it open. I'm sorry. Don't touch anything. The technician looked increasingly confused. Marcus smiled faintly. Today is one of those days. That explanation seemed to work better than it should have. Yes, sir. The technician stepped back. Marcus contacted Richard. We just received a maintenance request for Environmental Unit 4. I see it. Who generated it? Automated system. Marcus leaned against the wall. What triggers that? Sensor variance. Real variance? A pause. Checking. Marcus waited. The technician waited. Neither spoke. Finally, Richard returned. The sensor reports pressure fluctuation. Marcus looked at the environmental door. And the redundant sensor? Silence. A longer silence. Then, stable. Marcus's expression hardened. There's your problem. Richard's voice changed. Someone spoofed one sensor. Or physically altered it. To bring maintenance here. Marcus nodded. Maybe. The technician stared at him. Marcus looked back. Who normally responds first? Depends on shift. Today? Me. Predictable. The man frowned. I suppose. Marcus pointed toward the technician's badge. How long have you had that credential? 6 years. Same access level? Mostly. Does your work order system display the responding technician before arrival? The man's eyes widened slightly. Yes. Marcus nodded slowly. There it was. Not proof. A possibility. Someone could create a false fault. See who accepted it. Know whose badge would arrive. Know what tools they carried. Know their schedule. Know how to copy their behavior. Marcus's voice became quiet. Richard. Yes. Find every false or unresolved maintenance alert in the last 60 days. Richard sighed. You realize you're trying to make my analysts hate you. They'll recover. A second security team arrived. Marcus briefed them quickly. No one opens that door until environmental systems confirm it can be isolated. One officer nodded. If there's hazardous material. Exactly. Marcus turned to the technician. Can Unit 4 be shut down remotely? Yes. Do it. The technician worked through several menus. Remote isolation initiated. A low vibration changed somewhere behind the wall. The technician watched the readings. Flow stopped. Pressure? Equalizing. Atmosphere inside? The technician's expression changed. That's odd. Marcus waited. Oxygen is slightly elevated. How slightly? 24%. Marcus's attention sharpened. Human normal oxygen concentration hovered close to 21%. 24 wasn't instantly dangerous. But it changed combustion behavior. Marcus looked at the security officers. No sparks. The technician nodded quickly. Absolutely. Marcus pointed toward the door. Any reason that room should run oxygen-rich? No. What uses pure oxygen nearby? Medical reserve lines pass through the adjacent service trunk. Marcus closed his eyes briefly. Not poison. Not necessarily. Maybe another contingency. Maybe preparation for fire. Maybe nothing. He disliked how often maybe nothing had appeared today. Can someone introduce oxygen remotely? Marcus asked. The technician shook his head. Not through normal controls. Physically? Yes. If someone accessed the service trunk. From where? The technician pointed down the corridor. Utility junction. Marcus turned. 20 meters away. A small access door sat almost invisible in the wall. No camera directly covered it. Marcus stared. There. Not the answer. But a weakness. Commander Ralvek's voice suddenly came through Richard's channel. Hail. Marcus stopped. The translator preserved the commander's tone perfectly. Go ahead. Kayla wishes to know whether she is permitted to continue her schedule. Marcus almost smiled. She asked it that way? Ralvek paused. No. Marcus could imagine Kayla's expression. What did she actually say? Another pause. Then Ralvek replied. She said she would like to know whether her new protector intends to imprison her before or after lunch. Marcus smiled. Tell her after. Ralvek made a sound suspiciously close to amusement. Hail. Yes. She is serious. So am I. Marcus's smile faded. Cancel public appearances for the next 2 hours. Ralvek was silent. Only 2. That's what I said. You believe the threat is contained? No. Then why only 2 hours? Marcus looked down the corridor. Because whoever is doing this expects us to panic. He began walking toward the utility junction. I'd rather disappoint them. Kayla stood beside the conference room window when Ralvek ended the call. Kira remained near her. Not sleeping. Watching. Kayla looked toward the commander. Well, Ralvek folded his arms. He has cancelled 2 hours. Kayla blinked. 2. Yes. And then, he intends for the schedule to resume. She stared at him. Ralvek's ears shifted with restrained amusement. He also said he would imprison you after lunch. Kayla slowly turned her head. That was his response? Almost exactly. She looked down at Kira. Is he always like this? Kira's tail moved once. Kayla sighed. I shall take that as confirmation. The humor faded quickly. Kayla looked through the glass at the artificial forest. Someone had tried to poison her. Perhaps. Someone might now be manipulating environmental systems. Perhaps. People were searching corridors because she had come here. Again. The familiar weight returned. Ralvek saw it immediately. Kayla. She didn't look at him. If I had remained home. No. Her ears lowered. He rarely interrupted her. That made the word effective. You did not place the substance in the kitchen. I know. You did not steal the scanner. I know. You did not compromise environmental systems. She finally looked at him. I know. Ralvek stepped closer. Then stop speaking as though you did. Kayla looked away. He softened his voice. Marcus was correct. That got her attention. You dislike admitting that. Intensely. Despite herself, she smiled. Ralvek continued. The responsibility belongs to the attacker. Kayla's smile disappeared. But the danger follows me. Yes. He didn't lie to her. She appreciated that. The danger follows your office. Your mission. What you represent. Ralvek looked toward Kira. The German shepherd watched them both. It does not follow because you are Kayla. That distinction hurt more than she expected. Because she wasn't sure she believed it yet. Back in the service corridor, Marcus stood before the utility junction. The access panel required a maintenance badge. The technician used his. The lock released. Marcus stopped him before he opened it. Gloves. The technician pulled on a clean pair. Slowly. The panel opened. Inside ran cables. Coolant lines. Fiber trunks. Emergency oxygen. Marcus examined everything from a distance first. Nothing obvious. Then the technician pointed. That shouldn't be there. A thin transparent tube had been attached to the oxygen line. Temporary. Crude compared with the surrounding installation. But functional. Marcus followed it with his eyes. The tube disappeared upward through a service gap. Toward Environmental Unit 4. One of the security officers muttered something under his breath. Marcus remained calm. Photograph everything. The officer raised his camera. Marcus added, before anyone removes it. The technician swallowed. Someone intentionally raised the oxygen concentration. Looks that way. Why? Marcus stared at the line. If I knew that, we'd be done. One security officer looked toward the environmental room. Could they be planning a fire? Possible. Explosion? Possible. The officer frowned. You don't seem concerned. Marcus looked at him. I'm very concerned. You don't look it. That's not the same thing. The officer nodded slowly. Marcus returned to the improvised connection. A small valve sat between the unauthorized tubing and the oxygen line. Commercial component. Common. Nothing traceable at a glance. Then he noticed the clamp. The screw head showed fresh wear. Wrong tool. Someone had tightened it with pliers instead of the correct driver. Marcus leaned closer. Not a facility technician. Probably. A real technician surrounded by proper tools wouldn't choose pliers unless forced. An outsider improvising under time pressure might. Or someone pretending to be maintenance. Marcus smiled faintly. You were rushed. Finally. Something human. Or Leakin. Or whoever had done this. Something imperfect. Richard contacted him. We found the scanner. Where? Waste processing. Marcus's eyes narrowed. Condition. Smashed. Recoverable. Unknown. Don't turn it on. We weren't planning to. Good. Richard continued. There's more. Marcus waited. The scanner entered waste processing 31 minutes before Kayla's meal was prepared. Camera shows a maintenance worker carrying it. Identification. Badge says Nathan Cole. Marcus looked toward the technician beside him. Do you know Nathan Cole? The man's face went pale. Yes. Where is he? He called in sick today. Marcus closed his eyes. There it is. Richard continued. Marcus, find Cole. We're already calling his residence. No. Marcus's voice sharpened. Send someone. Richard immediately understood. Alive if possible. Obviously. And Marcus. Yes. His badge logged into this corridor 3 hours ago. Marcus stared at the maintenance technician beside him. The technician stared back. His own realization arrived at the same time. Someone had used the credentials of a man who wasn't even in the building. Marcus looked toward the security team. Lock this section down. One officer reached for the alarm control. Marcus stopped him. Quietly. The officer nodded. Marcus continued. No facility-wide announcement. Understood. And nobody uses the name Nathan Cole over open communications. Richard answered through the channel. Agreed. Marcus looked again at the unauthorized oxygen line. The first attack he'd reviewed had been a pressure regulator failure. The third had been a shuttle malfunction. Technical failures. Maintenance systems. Invisible preparation. People only noticed after something broke. He touched his communicator. Richard. I'm here. I think we've been looking at the assassinations backward. Silence. Explain. Marcus stared at the tubing. We assumed they selected a method for each target. Yes. What if they don't? Richard waited. What if they select whatever vulnerability already exists? That silence lasted longer. Marcus continued. They aren't bringing elaborate weapons through security. His eyes moved toward the service corridor. They're turning ordinary systems into weapons. Richard's voice became quiet. Pressure regulators. Transportation. Environmental controls. Food supply. Marcus nodded to himself. They don't need to smuggle much. A pause. They just need access. Richard exhaled. And access requires information. Exactly. Marcus looked toward the maintenance badge on the technician beside him. Schedules. Credentials. Procedures. Names. Habits. The pieces weren't forming a picture yet, but they were starting to share edges. Marcus turned toward the conference wing. Tell Ralvek we're moving Kayla. Richard sounded surprised. You said we shouldn't panic. We aren't. Where? Marcus started walking. Somewhere the attacker didn't prepare. Marcus, this whole facility is secure. Marcus smiled without humor. That's what everyone keeps telling me. Richard understood the point. Where do you want her? Marcus thought for 3 seconds. Then, take her to the botanical level. The forest? Yes. That's less secure. Which means it's probably less prepared. Richard was silent. Marcus added, and she likes trees. A faint chuckle came through the channel. That's part of the security assessment? Marcus kept walking. It's part of keeping the person I'm protecting functional. He ended the call. Ahead of him, somewhere beyond several layers of supposedly secure doors, High Delegate Kayla waited. Someone had already learned how the building worked. Marcus intended to make that knowledge worthless. The botanical level was quieter than the conference wing. That alone changed Kayla's posture. Artificial daylight filtered through the canopy overhead, softened by leaves broad enough to catch the illumination and scatter it into shifting patterns across the path. The air carried damp soil, living wood, and moving water. Not home, but closer. Kayla slowed beside the stream. Kira slowed with her. Ralvek noticed both. 2 hours ago, he said, I would have objected strongly to relocating you here. Kayla glanced toward him. And now? I object moderately. She smiled. Progress. Ralvek's ears shifted. I would not call it that. Kira stepped off the path to investigate a fern. Kayla watched her for a moment. Marcus believes this level is safer because it is less secure. Ralvek looked deeply offended by the sentence. Yes, that troubles you. It violates several principles I have spent my career enforcing. Kayla looked toward the trees. Does it make sense? Ralvek remained silent. That was answer enough. Marcus arrived 3 minutes later. He didn't announce himself. Kira noticed him first. Her head rose. Her tail moved once. Kayla followed the dog's gaze. Marcus approached from behind a stand of young maples, accompanied by Richard and one human security officer. Kayla studied his face. Calm. The same as before. But something had changed. His eyes were working faster. Marcus. He stopped. Hi, Delegate. You moved me. I did. Without asking. Yes. Ralvek's ears shifted slightly. Richard suddenly found the stream extremely interesting. Kayla folded her arms. Is this customary in human diplomacy? No. In executive protection? Sometimes. Do your clients appreciate it? Rarely. Kayla stared at him. Marcus waited. Then her muzzle curved. I see. He nodded. Good. I did not say I approve. I didn't expect you to. Ralvek looked between them. I am beginning to suspect this arrangement will produce considerable friction. Marcus glanced at him. Probably. Kayla's ears lifted. And this does not concern you? Marcus considered the question. No. Why? Because if you disagree with me, you'll say so. Kayla blinked. Marcus continued. I'd rather protect someone who argues than someone who quietly ignores instructions. For several seconds, she said nothing. Then she nodded. Fair. Marcus turned toward the human security officer. Give us 50 yards. The officer hesitated. Ralvek noticed. Marcus noticed him noticing. The officer looked toward Richard. Richard nodded. The man withdrew along the path. Ralvek folded his arms. You do not trust your own personnel? Marcus looked at him. I don't know them. That is not the same. Correct. Ralvek's expression softened slightly. Marcus continued. Trust is earned. The commander gave one slow nod. On that, we agree. Kayla looked toward Marcus. What did you find? Marcus's humor disappeared. A stolen inventory scanner. Ralvek's attention sharpened. From the kitchen? Yes. Marcus continued. Someone used maintenance credentials belonging to an employee who wasn't in the building. Kayla's ears lowered. Compromised credentials. Probably. A stolen badge? Maybe. She waited. Marcus appreciated that she no longer reacted to the uncertainty. He continued. Someone also altered an environmental system using an unauthorized oxygen connection. Ralvek's expression became hard. An explosive atmosphere? Not yet. Could it have become one? Possibly. Kayla's tail stopped moving. The meal and the environmental system. Marcus nodded. 2 separate opportunities. At the same time. Close enough. Kayla looked toward the stream. So one may have been a distraction. Or a backup. Ralvek growled softly. Marcus looked toward him. Or neither. The commander stared. Marcus raised one hand. We still don't know whether the food additive was lethal. Ralvek's claws flexed. If it was unauthorized. It was suspicious. Marcus held his gaze. Suspicious isn't the same as proven. Ralvek slowly relaxed his hand. Kayla watched the exchange. Neither man yielded easily. Neither took disagreement personally. That reassured her. Marcus pulled out his tablet. This time, he activated it. Several diagrams appeared. Building access. Maintenance routes. Credential logs. Kayla leaned closer. Your mapping movement. Yes. Of the attacker? Everyone. She looked at him. Marcus pointed toward the diagram. If I only look for suspicious movement, I'll find what I expect. Ralvek nodded. So you establish normal patterns first. Exactly. Kayla studied the map. Dozens of small paths crossed one another. Employees. Security. Maintenance. Kitchen staff. Diplomatic aides. Researchers. Hundreds of ordinary movements. Marcus highlighted one route. See this? Kayla leaned closer. A maintenance credential moved from one service section toward the kitchen. Then disappeared. Then reappeared near environmental control. Ralvek frowned. That is Cole's badge. Yes. Yet Cole was absent. Correct. Kayla looked toward Marcus. So whoever used it knew he would not be here. Marcus nodded. That's what bothers me. Richard spoke for the first time. We confirmed Cole reported sick at 5:30 this morning. Marcus glanced toward him. How? He contacted the automated personnel system from home. Voice. Yes. Biometric confirmation? No. Marcus looked back at the map. So we know someone reported him sick. Richard's expression tightened. Not necessarily Cole. No. Kayla felt a chill unrelated to temperature. They could have removed him before entering the facility. Marcus nodded. Possible. Ralvek's voice became quieter. Is someone checking? Team is already en route. Kayla looked toward Marcus. You thought of that immediately. He shrugged. Credential plus absence. Most people would assume illness. Most people aren't being paid to be unpleasantly suspicious. A faint smile touched her muzzle. Are you being paid? Marcus looked toward Richard. Richard answered. Technically. Marcus nodded. Then yes. Kayla laughed softly. The tension eased. Only briefly. Kira rose suddenly. Marcus stopped speaking. Kayla did too. This time she noticed it immediately. Kira wasn't watching a doorway. She was looking into the trees. Ears forward. Body still. Ralvek's hand moved toward the weapon at his side. Marcus raised one finger. Wait. No one spoke. Kira stared between two tree trunks. Marcus followed her line of sight. Nothing. Wind moved leaves. Water flowed. Then, a human emerged from behind the vegetation. Gardening uniform. Hand tools. A basket of trimmed branches. He froze when he saw the group. Oh. Marcus watched his hands. Open. Visible. No tension. The gardener looked toward Kayla. Then toward Ralvek. Then toward Marcus. I'm sorry. I didn't realize this section was occupied. Marcus looked at Kira. She relaxed. He did too. You're fine. The gardener nodded quickly. I can leave. Marcus pointed toward the plants. Were you scheduled to work here? Yes, sir. What time? All morning. Marcus glanced toward Richard. Richard was already checking. A moment later. Confirmed. Marcus nodded. Keep working. The gardener hesitated. With them here. Kayla smiled. We do not mind. The man looked relieved. Thank you, ma'am. He returned to trimming. Kayla watched Marcus. You let him stay? Yes. Why? Because removing everyone changes the environment. And you dislike unnecessary changes. I dislike predictable reactions. Kayla looked toward the gardener. He might be dangerous. He might. Ralvek stared at Marcus. You say that remarkably casually. Marcus looked back. Everyone might be dangerous. Kayla's ears tilted. Even me? Marcus answered immediately. Absolutely. For the first time, Ralvek laughed. A deep, brief sound. Kayla stared at Marcus in mock offense. I am a diplomat. So I've been told. I have spent my career preventing wars. Which means you have access to governments, military leaders, secure facilities, restricted information, and powerful people. Marcus nodded. Terrifying. Kayla opened her mouth. Closed it. Then looked at Ralvek. Do not encourage him. The commander composed himself. I am trying not to. Richard muttered. We've all tried. Marcus returned to the map. There's another problem. Kayla's humor faded. The attacker knows more than procedures. What do you mean? They understand how people react. Marcus highlighted the maintenance alert. Someone created a false fault after we started investigating. Ralvek frowned. To lure a technician? Probably. Why? Marcus pointed at the building layout. Could be to create access. Another point. Could be to draw security away. Another. Could be to see who responds. Kayla studied the display. Testing us. Marcus looked at her. Maybe. This time, she smiled faintly. You enjoy that word. No. You use it often. Because certainty is expensive. Kayla considered that. That sounds like something taught by your Hades organization. Marcus's face changed. Very little. But enough. The warmth disappeared. Not anger. A door closing. Richard looked toward Kayla. Ralvek noticed. Kayla immediately understood she'd crossed something. I apologize. Marcus shook his head. No need. She waited. He looked back at the map. Hades taught me many things. His voice remained neutral. Most aren't relevant. Kayla heard the boundary. And respected it. Understood. Marcus glanced toward her. A small nod. Trust, perhaps. Not much. But something. Richard's communicator vibrated. He read the message. His face hardened. Marcus saw it. Cole. Richard looked up. His house is empty. Signs of struggle? None. Vehicle? Gone. Neighbors? One reports seeing him leave early. Marcus's eyes narrowed. What time? Approximately 4:45. Kayla spoke. Before the sick call. Richard nodded. Marcus looked toward the map. Destination? Unknown. Traffic systems? Pulling now. Ralvek asked. You believe he's involved? Marcus shook his head. I believe I don't like coincidences. Kayla stared toward the trees. If he is involved, then he knows you may be searching for him. Yes. And if he isn't? Marcus finished the thought. Someone may be using his life as camouflage. Silence settled over them. The gardener continued working 20 yards away. Birds moved through the artificial canopy. Water passed over stones. The environment remained peaceful. The conversation did not. Kayla finally spoke. Marcus. He looked at her. How long before you know whether this facility is compromised? He didn't soften the answer. I already know it is. Ralvek's ears flattened. Kayla's eyes narrowed. Explain. Someone entered restricted areas with false credentials. Marcus counted on one finger. Someone manipulated supply inventory. Second finger. Someone altered environmental systems. Third. And someone knew enough about staff behavior to exploit normal routines. He lowered his hand. That's compromised. Kayla's expression remained calm. What do you recommend? Marcus studied her. Not Ralvek. Not Richard. Her. Leave. Ralvek nodded immediately. Kayla did not. Leave Earth. No. She blinked. Leave the facility. Where? I don't know yet. Ralvek frowned. Marcus continued. That's the advantage. Kayla almost smiled. You wish to relocate me somewhere you haven't selected. Yes. That is your plan. Part of it. Ralvek spoke. That is not a plan. Marcus looked toward him. It's the beginning of one. The commander folded his arms. I am relieved. Marcus ignored the sarcasm. We don't pick the destination until we're moving. Richard's expression changed. Marcus. What? You want an unplanned extraction? Partially. That violates every transport protocol we have. Yes. Every route has to be cleared. That's the problem. Richard stared. Marcus tapped the map. Every cleared route becomes known to someone. Kayla understood. So you want a route nobody can leak? Marcus nodded. Because nobody knows it. Ralvek's eyes narrowed. Not even us. Not until necessary. The commander did not like that. Marcus could see it. But Kayla was thinking. Good. He waited. How many people know where I sleep tonight? She asked. Richard answered. Currently? At least 40. Kayla looked toward Marcus. How many should know? 4. Ralvek immediately asked. Which 4? Marcus pointed. You. Then Kayla. Her. Then Richard. Me. Richard raised an eyebrow. You said 4. Marcus looked down. Kira sat beside Kayla. Her ears lifted. Marcus nodded toward her. 5. Kayla smiled. Ralvek sighed. I should have anticipated that. The communicator vibrated again. Richard checked it. This time he stood. What? Marcus asked. Richard looked toward Kayla before answering. The laboratory finished preliminary analysis of the food additive. Everyone went still. Result? Ralvek asked. Richard swallowed. Not poison. Ralvek's expression shifted from fury to confusion. Kayla frowned. Marcus said nothing. Richard continued. It's a biological compound. Dr. Chen's voice came through the communicator from the laboratory. We don't understand exactly what it does yet. Marcus took the device. Human origin? No. Leakin? A pause. No. Kayla's eyes sharpened. Ralvek stepped closer. Marcus asked. Natural. We don't know. Active? Very. Effect? Another pause. Marcus. Doctor. Her voice became quieter. It appears designed to interact with the Leakin symbiotic colony. Kayla stopped breathing for a heartbeat. Ralvek's hand closed around the edge of the nearby stone railing. Marcus's expression became absolutely still. Dr. Chen continued. We've never seen anything like it. Marcus looked at Kayla. For the first time since taking the assignment, he saw fear. Not fear for herself. Something deeper. Something connected to her entire species. He understood immediately. The assassination campaign had just become something else. Marcus spoke into the communicator. Seal the sample. Already done. Nobody touches it without full containment. Agreed. Don't transmit the composition. Dr. Chen hesitated. Why? Because if someone went this far to get it into Kayla. Marcus looked toward the artificial forest around them. I don't want them knowing how much we've learned. He ended the connection. Kayla stared at him. What do we do? Marcus rose. The relaxed meeting was over. We move. Ralvek stood beside her. Where? Marcus looked toward Richard. Get us transportation. What kind? Something boring. Richard blinked. Marcus clarified. No diplomatic shuttle. No government convoy. No armored limousine. He looked toward Kayla. Nothing anyone expects a high delegate to use. Richard thought for a moment, then slowly smiled. I think I know exactly what you want. Marcus picked up his tablet. Good. Kayla rose to her full height. Marcus. He looked up at her. She glanced toward Kira. Then back. You said only 5 people should know where I sleep tonight. Yes. Her expression became serious. Then do not tell anyone else. Marcus held her gaze. That wasn't obedience. It was trust. The first real piece of it. He nodded once. I won't. And just like that, High Delegate Kayla disappeared from the official security plan.